So what's the time right there?
It's 2 a.m. here and we're recording. So welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. And I'm here with T.
Hey, Robbie.
I know, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name right now at 2 a.m. But why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do either professionally or whatever you're interested in?
Uh, I'm still an undergraduate and I don't do anything still professionally. And
You
I'm a
study cryptids
cryptozoology.
though. Yeah, you study cryptids. Like you don't understand how interesting that actually is. Everyone always sits there and goes like, "Oh, you're living a fantasy." I'm like, Bigfoot is badass, first of all. I don't know how else to explain anything besides cryptozoology, besides Bigfoot, Mothman, all the great legends that literally there's a town, I think, 2 states over that has a Mothman statue in Virginia. There's just a
You're
giant stat.
lucky.
Yeah, dude, it's just everyone goes by, rubs it, touches it inappropriately, obviously, but still, it's there.
Yeah. So you see, Bigfoot's not that much. Werewolves are the first one.
Oh my
Okay.
God, are you kidding me, bro? You can't, all right, we can't start off a podcast about cryptozoology and just knock off the big man on campus, Bigfoot. But I get what you're saying, though, with werewolves, because I understand you're in India, so there's not a lot of folklore that is specific when it comes to the cryptid monsters besides over here in the States where it originates. But with
Yeah.
werewolves, that's something that extends the boundaries depending on your country as well. Like that's everywhere. Every country knows about werewolves. There's always a different fear and a different folklore behind it. So where does this fall in for you in India? What is the typical werewolf idea or folklore in your head?
You see, there are gods, right? Have you ever heard of Lord Krishna?
Maud
Krishna,
Krishna?
Lord Krishna,
Yeah,
God. He's a god.
yeah.
Uh, there was a time when his village got pillaged by many wolves, okay? But the missing ones were only the babies, not the adults. So a wolf will always go for the family first. You see, it kills all of the people, not just take away the babies. It's got no brain. But what's the awesome part was only the babies were missing, not the awesome part. Only the babies were missing. So how can a wolf? It got wolf prints all over. So how does a wolf go by without everyone noticing, take away the babies, and get out of the house? What do you think about that?
That's interesting because there's a show called Supernatural. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
It has to deal with hunting monsters and stuff, and there's these things called shifters, and these shifters are like people that can turn into other people, or even they're the werewolves. They turn into like regular dogs. They're not like the big badass ones we see in movies, but they would always take somebody's like child and then try and raise it on their own after them, basically learning the mindset, either using it to help with the pack hunting, such as like luring unsuspecting, I guess, suspecting victims to their doom, like easy prey, like, you just get somebody to get the food for you. But the mindset of a werewolf that would like murder a whole entire family, that is like a kill all be all type, I guess, thing that we all really think of is like it's going to be a massacre or something. But I think this mindset of like just taking, like the baby or something, it stems from like the old legend, probably with Romulus, where these two babies were raised by a wolf. They had to suckle from like the wolf's teat, was their mother, and be able to kind of grow up into these two formative warriors.
So what you say is the human body is very fragile, right? It's very fragile. You can get cut by anything. A piece of glass may cut you. But what if a werewolf? You see a werewolf, which is immortal, heals quickly, is stronger, faster, better. What is the best, right? A Bigfoot's like a big, what to say, a gorilla. You can see a gorilla in a zoo.
Werewolf is like a transformative state for a person to be in. Bigfoot is like its
Yeah,
own. You can't be Bigfoot. Like there's no there's no
there's no
people that are like,
possibility.
you can't get scratched by Bigfoot and then turn into Bigfoot. That just doesn't happen. But like
You
I
gotta be born that way.
if we're going to talk about monsters, we can't even throw Bigfoot in that category. Monsters, like the overall best, in my opinion, is probably werewolf, only because, like, when I was a kid, it was always this Team Edward, Team Jacob type Twilight situation. And any video game you'd play that happened to do with monsters dealt with, like, oh, you want to be a vampire, you can choose the side of a werewolf. I'm like, why would I want to be a vampire? It seems like you're not able to go out into daylight without drinking blood. You're overall pale as fuck. Um, it just doesn't seem that interesting. But the immortality aspect, like with werewolves, a lot of the times werewolves aren't immortal. They age like a regular human, but they're way stronger, way faster, have this uh, really, it depends on what you're watching folklore wise. Like if you're watching them under like a darkness movie or something, they usually talk about they can only shapeshift when the moon is out. And then if you watch like some other movies, they'll just have it regular, whenever. They can turn into it whenever they want, which I feel like is way better. Because I mean, if you got like a pickle jar that's like shut and you can't open it up, if you could just turn into a werewolf and break it open, I mean, come on now.
Yeah, there's a ritual. They say that there's a ritual to become a werewolf. Have you ever heard about that?
You got to get bit.
No? Yeah, it works. But what if you don't find a werewolf? How do you become one? It's not proven. Don't try this. Definitely don't try this. Um, you need to kill a family member, take his heart out. Sorry,
Is
slice
this
it
like an
open.
actual like is this an actual like a textbook where I can read this? Because like if there's an instruction manual to actually become a werewolf and it involves killing your family member, I can think of one
No,
right now that I would like to, yeah, push down a flight of stairs for sure.
and place all over your victim's blood should be all over your body. Okay,
Wait, so I have to roll around in the blood?
why don't you just open him up and get inside him? It's easy.
I'm not trying to like climb into it for warmth. I don't want to be sitting inside somebody that is my family member unless I mean, I don't know.
I'm just kidding. There's no such thing. Don't nobody try this at home.
Don't don't try this at home, kids. Do not kill your family member and climb inside of their corpse. That would not be fun at all.
Sure. Yeah.
So you got to explain what's the rest of the ritual. Like I'm sitting here wondering, is that it? I just kill a family member and you take their heart?
I just made that up. Or okay. Don't take that seriously. Not. I did not make that up.
I have no clue what is going on right now. You're telling me a ritual of a werewolf, then you're telling me you made it up. You didn't make it up.
What if somebody sees this and does that? That's a problem. We'll
Yeah.
both get arrested.
Yeah, it's the same thing if I went and told somebody that if you just huffed farts all day, you would be immune to COVID. It's not gonna. That's just false news. I want to know the facts. What have you studied cryptozoology wise that has given you this knowledge or this wonderment of these beasts or myths? I would say
uh, I'll say, but you see, it's sort of. I feel very bad if somebody really does that. You see,
nobody's gonna go
that's the
and do that.
problem.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
The legends have done that. You see, I've read about many people who've done that. That's the problem.
Okay,
Let's just keep it a secret. All right. Let's pass on. Move on.
I'm trying to ask you where your knowledge came for cryptozoology is, and you keep going back to the
You see,
climbing inside your family member. We don't need to do that. We can just talk about cryptozoology. Where did you first stumble across it? As a kid? Where?
as a kid, yeah, I would say that. You see, in India, right? You've got many rituals. Okay, and we've got one thing in particular that made me go towards cryptozoology. Um, we used to sacrifice goats to our gods, right? Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
And we collect its blood. We just head comes out. We use a bottle or something to hold the blood, fresh blood, out of when it gushes out of the goat. We use that. We then put some rice and mix the blood at 2 a.m. in the morning. Okay, 2 a.m. We throw it on the sky. Okay, we just throw it. A single person throws it, and a person with what to say, a torch lays by him. You see, he will just put a large mixture of this rice with blood. He'll keep this. He'll keep it like this, and he'll throw it, and they'll both come back running without seeing what's happening back there. What the most awesome thing is, the rice that went up never comes down. Do you hear that?
Yeah, that's strange because like if you look at like what's so popular about like monsters or these types of things, like if you play some types of video games or you study in some type of ancient folklore or something, there is always a talk of hunters trying to sacrifice an animal to be able to get the instincts or get the skills of that animal. Such as like a
Yeah,
sacrificial killing and then maybe eating the heart of an animal, which is similar to what we were talking about earlier. But the whole factor is you would be able to get some of the knowledge and power, such as like being able to help with seeing at night, being able to smell your prey, being able to do all these other features. That's why if you ever watch like a werewolf movie, typically it's stereotypical. The werewolf guy lives out like in the wilderness somewhere where he can't hurt anybody, um,
yeah.
where he has the ability to hunt and go free roam, which is interesting because like as a kid, you're getting your folklore or you're getting your knowledge based on these kind of weird traditional stories or things like that, that would be, just seem really ridiculous now that you look at them, like, like sacrificing a goat or something. That stuff that was here in our past as well. Like you would sacrifice something, we pushed people into volcanoes, I'm pretty sure at one point. Uh, but it made sense for that knowledge back then just because like if something works once, like let's say I'm sitting here sacrificing a chicken, next thing I know, I'm praying for rain while I'm doing it and it starts to rain. I'm immediately going to start sacrificing chickens for it to start raining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's that whole mindset that happens, and it takes a lot to pull yourself out of it too. But what's interesting is I always kind of wondered, there was these divides between vampires and werewolves, and I think I always kind of thought, what would happen if you mixed the two together and made like a werepire?
Where fire? That's not basically possible. You can't cross a hen with a goat, right?
You can't cross a hen with a goat, no, but you can. Hey, if you can have, Twilight, they had a vampire and a human have a baby, so why can't you have a werewolf and a vampire have a baby? You can't tell me there's a forbidden love in folklore. There is a angel that will have a baby with a human, and that's supposed to be like illegal. It's supposed to be a crime. And I forgot it's called a Nephilim. It's half human, half angel. If
Yeah.
that's possible, you're telling me you can't have a vampire and a werewolf have kids?
It's possible. It's just one in a million or something sort of way. One in 10,000 maybe.
But what I'm saying is that would be like the badass race. You got to look at that. Like, I mean, a giant werewolf body, like the whole werewolf beast transformation with vampire wings, you're done. There's no surviving. You give up, you throw your pitchfork on the ground, you're over with it.
You see, every positive's got a negative, right? If he's got what to say, a powerful wings, just like you said, a wings, a big body, stronger, he may be stripped down from one thing, immortality or something like that. What to say, sudden curing diseases. He might not be immune to diseases, something like that. Every positive's got a negative, right there.
So the negative, I guess, would say for a vampire is you can't really walk into sunlight. So you can't do a lot of daytime events. You got to be a nighttime type of person. And then for a werewolf, would the benefit be like, I mean, the benefits obviously you get this strong transformation, but it's obviously the negative side of it would be it's very hard to
No
control.
immortality.
Well, at the same time,
Yeah,
it's hard to control too. You can't just like you're in the middle of your house watching like cable or something. Then next thing you know, you turn into a werewolf and your whole furniture and living room's just messed up.
yeah. That's a problem, right? The anger is the problem with that. And vampires with darkness, they live in darkness, right? And the most important thing is, all werewolves are not immortal. Okay, there are some werewolves. that die too, but not like humans in 200 years or 300 years, stuff like that.
Yeah, slower, like a slower decay rate. It's always they talk about like for the
Yeah,
werewolves, the ones that get to live forever have this immortality, or one of the firsts, one of like the main. There's always an alpha of the group, not maybe the strongest of the pack, but like the oldest of the pack, the one that everyone looks up to, the one that changes everybody else. It seems like
yeah,
in any type of werewolf transformation or any type of werewolf movie, the main person that transforms that person into a werewolf, they have a tight bond, more like that's where his nest is.
yeah. And the most, you see, the story I told you right now, that the one with the rice, blood and rice, huh?
Yeah, I'm not
The
mad.
gods have fangs. Okay, that's what made me curious about the cryptozoology side. You see, all are connected. The gods had two fangs, like that of a vampire. Okay, we pray them. They're stronger, faster, bigger, and obviously immortal. We pray for them. See, I saw this. I took him as an idol. I kept him there. I thought, why won't this be interconnected? And then I saw this movie. It was an old movie. I don't remember, Dracula or something, 19 something's movie. See, he also had fangs. He was faster. Somebody called him, what to say, a stronger man, maybe, a god, maybe. See, these were interconnected, right? Both had the same powers. That's what the interesting cryptozoology is. So, if it's fake, right? If India's gods are fake, this one, the blood and rice god, is fake. Dracula is also fake. Why? There's no possible way for them to interconnect, right? He's in India. He's in USA. How would they connect? You get my point.
Well, I think with folklore in general, it's all basically seems pretty fake. But I think what happened was at one point in our history, way back in the day when we weren't as knowledgeable as we are now with technology and everything. I mean, it seems so real that that could be a possibility. Vampires, werewolves, these types of things. There's obviously been elite humans throughout the world. I mean, people with genetic differences, such as probably me and you. But there's always been something, there's always that somebody that's faster, somebody that's stronger, somebody that's able to do things you can't explain. And you got to think back in the day, animals were getting slaughtered left and right. It was pretty common. You'd come across a goat or something with their organs taken out, and you would just chalk it up to a bear attack. And then eventually, you would find people probably on hallucinogenics that would just be running across the road trying to be like, "I'm hungry," and then get some drive-by goat or something. Like these are things that happen. I mean, there's always accounts of like a cryptid killing something or a monster killing something. I mean, werewolves never get played in I guess, a good scenario, when it comes to like anything throughout movies, except
No,
Michael Jackson's music video was pretty badass for werewolves, but that's about it. Like there's never anything like a dude walking down the road, a woman gets like pinned under a car or something, and a werewolf comes by and lifts the car up. It's never like that. It's always like, oh, the werewolf's ripping this dude's head off. Freaking Hugh Jackman's got to kill it. Like, oh my god, like seriously.
dude, it's cool, man. You always see people with heads.
Why do you think people enjoy vampires more than werewolves? I definitely think it's the similarities between like when you're a monster, a vampire is more, I guess, acceptable because it still has human features and characteristics. I have a feeling that like what makes people so stubborn or afraid of things is the fact that something is completely different. And I think that's what it is with werewolves. Like if you're like as a child, or if you're just as a person, if you have this personality that's very very secluded, very not into large groups, you don't really get along with everybody, you always feel like an outcast, you seem to bond more with the werewolf rather than if you're Mr. Popularity, Mr. Group Man, you want to go with the vampire because you still like that capability. Imagine being super popular and then not being able to hang out into the world because you turn into this monster. So a vampire would be the easier choice.
You're just saying the exact opposite. See, werewolves need clans, right? They need a pack, so they'll be the most famous.
Werewolves need packs, but they're not always. See, what I'm trying to tell you is when a person would rather become a werewolf. It's more on the lines of that they have a secluded. That's where the lone wolf thing comes in. Werewolves turn other werewolves after an extended amount of time. A lot of the times they roll solo for hundreds of years. And then once they get towards the ending is when they start getting a pack together. The thing is, people like myself, for instance, I was never, Mr. Popular, was never Mr. Let me get into a group, was never really connected with a lot of people, which is why I bonded with the werewolf, because it was like this, you could go out in the daytime, do your stuff, but at night there was this monster side of you with incredible strength, that inner ability to overcome. And then if you look at vampires, I mean, you could, if you drink blood, you could just walk out and be around everybody like 24/7. Those people never want to be secluded from anybody. They always just want to, I think the only person that was a vampire that wanted to be secluded was, I think, Dracula. That was just because he was so old. He just wanted to kill everybody.
Yeah, he's got some mental problems, right? Yeah, and have you ever heard of the Jersey Devil?
Yeah, yeah, man. That's like 2 states over from me. That's probably one of the freakiest ones I've ever heard of a person being born with hooves and wings and flying out of a chimney. Oh, that's a tough one.
Have you heard that right? See, the baby transformed into something like that, not born like that. Have you read that right?
See, you're reading that, but what I saw in the X Files at 3 o'clock in the morning that scared the living hell out of me was that it was born like that.
Born? Now that's an information for me.
She said the woman was like
Whoa.
said to be possessed or said to be pregnant by the son of Satan or something, and then this thing came out with freaking hooves and wings and flew out of a chimney late at night. I remember that specifically because I had nightmares for like a week after I saw that.
See, Napoleon Bonaparte's brother, or what is his brother? Napoleon Bonaparte's brother, Joseph Bonaparte. He saw that, he saw the Jersey Devil.
Did he see the Jersey Devil, or did he see something that might have resembled the Jersey Devil? Because I feel like everyone talks about, like, you can see the most common cryptids that are usually found is like chupacabra, because they find a slaughtered carcass of an animal with 2 holes in its neck or something where it looks like the blood was drained out. And there's been many pranks, kids trying to
Yeah,
kill whatever, goats, trying to kill animals just to be able to make the town fear chupacabra. But like, the Jersey Devil's an interesting one because I feel like since it's close to where I live, it's pretty popularly known. But like, if you're gonna think of the all-time badass cryptids, you got to bring up the Loch Ness monster. You got to bring up
yeah.
Bigfoot. Yeti is probably my all-time favorite. I mean, Bigfoot is up there. I look at Bigfoot like as like the keeper of the forest, I would say. Like, he's got like a robe on and stuff and comes out with like a giant staff and he's like, "There's no littering in my fucking woods." And he starts waving his staff all around.
You see, the Eddie had a sighting recently. You see that in the Himalayas.
Of a Yeti or a Bigfoot?
Eddie.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Eddie.
Well, have you
Eddie
read
lives in the moon.
have you read the Yeti folklore?
Dude, it's the Yeti, not Bigfoot, I'm sure.
I know,
Indian
but
soldiers.
have you read the Yeti folklore is what I'm saying.
No, no.
The Yeti folklore will make you want to literally study this cryptid more. Like, there's accounts I've read and I've done a podcast on it. There are Sherpas that
Okay,
would go up into the mountains. Sherpas are these people that guide people through dangerous conditions up mountains. They would always do it with travelers. Well, these
okay.
Yetis, these Sherpas would have stories of Yetis that would grab boulders and would chuck them at the Sherpas and knock them off the mountain. These Yetis are completely different from like Bigfoot, which makes it kind of, are they related? Because they both have similar traits, but are, I guess, found in different locations. And this is before text, this is before email, this is before Tinder. So you can't be able to communicate with someone halfway across the globe like me and you are doing right now.
Yeah,
So these folklores that these people were creating from the Tibetan mountains to North America, they were so similar that it made it seem like there had to be a race of hominids that were Bigfoot and Yeti. Were they from the same ancestor, much like how me and you are from like Homo sapiens or something? And
yeah.
with the Yeti, there were stories of like if kids didn't go to bed or if kids didn't do something properly or didn't obey their parents, the Yeti would come down off the mountains. And it seems like the boogeyman story you used to hear as a kid: if you don't eat your peas and vegetables, you're gonna get killed by a monster. He's gonna kill you in your sleep. And you're like, what, ma? But like the Yeti would come down and take your daughter, your firstborn daughter, and go back into the mountains, and you wouldn't have her anymore. Would take your firstborn daughter, which I thought was really, really strange and a twist on the average, you know, one that is usually told about.
Yeah.
Who's
So
Mr.
everybody,
Crypto's who's Mr. Cryptozoology here, bro? I feel like I'm spouting out more knowledge here.
yeah, I'm not interested in these hominid cryptids, right? Bigfoots and Yetis don't interest me. The ones that are different interest me. I just want to know all the different cryptids, right? It might be held in handy someday. What do you think? You see, basically, a person sees this, right? Let's take a Yeti. A person sees a Yeti. Uh, it's just not that it's fake, right? Two or three people see it at a time. Then where does this Yeti go? Where does this hide?
He goes out into
What
the
do you think about
mountains.
that?
Well, the way
Hides out in the mountains.
they've made a way of making it believable that you wouldn't be able to see him commonly because he lives up in a snowy mountain somewhere, that he'll be able to hide into a cave or something and totally disguise himself from the rest of the people.
We've got this much technology today. Why can't we find him then?
Why can't we find the Loch Ness monster?
See, that's the problem. Where does all these go?
Because it's got
And
this. Somebody's always got an excuse. You can't find the Loch Ness monster because the only way you can find that is by draining the lake, and you can't drain the lake because then it affects the natural beauty of things. And then people are like, "But we've searched the whole lake with a submarine." Oh, well, he swam around you trying to hide from you. It's like, well, if we're playing what if, like, why haven't we found Bigfoot? I don't know. There's plenty of people out there searching for him.
see, this makes you doubt yourself, right?
Yeah.
Are they really there? Right?
I spent $60 on eBay for Bigfoot hair, and I'm pretty sure it's not Bigfoot hair.
Might be off some goat or something. Some yak,
It looks
maybe.
like off somebody's back.
The comeback is always greater than the setback, man. I'm spitting out here. Shit.
But when it comes to like being able to research these things too, like how hard is that for you based on where you live compared to where all of this is originated, which is kind of in North America?
Uh, what to say? That's a difficult question. So, what to say? If I've been in North America, right?
Yeah.
What?
Well, so are you getting all of it off the internet, or how are you processing all this information? Like, how do you have this much information or this much knowledge about this subject? Are you getting it off like, like looking it up online, trying to read as much as you possibly can from like different articles and stuff?
I do online stuff, and I've got this. What to say? A family heirloom, maybe. What to say? Uh, my forefathers, maybe my grandpa's father, like that. The family tree. Okay, they write everything in their diaries or something. What to say? A pine leaf, maybe. They write everything. And recently, I got hold of one of that. That's like a tradition. I write it still. I write everything down. And you see, in those books, I read about this god with fangs. Yeah, the rice and blood god. I read about him. It was that my grandpa encountered him in real life at the night. You see, his what to say, his foot, no, his the god's foot is around this big, the size of my hand. He was kicked off by him, and that's the some stuff like that made me. First, I saw this god, right, the blood and god. I connected him with the vampire. The vampire led me to werewolves. Werewolves led me to the yeti. Yeti led me to the bigfoot. Like that, everything's interconnected. I do, and after I get hold of these things like the vampire, I search of everything, every internet first, libraries, books. I purchased this series. I bought this off the internet.
Okay, got to tell me your grandpa's story here. Like, do you
Yeah,
remember it specifically? Like, could you walk me through it in detail? I'm curious now because, like, you're telling me you have, you know, you're immediately you start saying that you have a family connection or family heirloom or family kind of history with this type of idea of
yeah.
these cryptids or monsters, and I immediately start thinking Van Helsing. So I'm like, are you about to get a lab coat and a gun with a wood splinter thing that shoots out of it to kill vampires? Like, I'm really freaking
Dude,
curious now.
we're the victims, okay? We're not the vampires or killers or something like that. We're the victims, okay? And
Isn't a
you see,
vampire killer a Oh wait, you're like one of the civilians, I would say.
yeah, I'm a Nazi civilian, right?
Come on, I
What
was
to
giving
do?
you more credit, bro. We got to be like I'm a vampire hunter.
Can we redo that maybe? I'm the
What?
killer of vampires.
No, sorry. You already told people you weren't. Now I got to roll with you weren't.
Shit.
All right, well, tell me the story of your grandpa meeting this creature.
You see, you got cattle. India's got cattle. The people with the most cattle are considered rich, right? We were one of the rich people, and we got a big house, like really big house, in a farm. And every day, my grandpa has to go at 3 in the morning. Okay, 3 in the morning, and go and tend to the cattle. He has to wake up every day at 2 a.m. He sleeps at 9. He every day wakes up 2 a.m. At 3, he goes to feed the cattle at the morning. And what's most interesting is that it's pitch black. At that time, there were no lights. No, there were no lights in it. It was pitch black. He'd just go off with what say a lamp, maybe a candle or a lamp, maybe. He'd go into the dark, and one day he heard some what to say bell noises, something like that, clink, 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 like that. And he turns around. There was nothing, and he hears some voice in our native tongue. Move away. In our native tongue is talipo, like that. In English it is move away or I'll kill you, like that. But in animal voices like monster voice, raw, like that. And he doesn't understand. He just thought this was imagination maybe. And he walks, and suddenly he was thrown off the road. You see, like what say, like in the movies, like that. He was thrown away, like it was he was like a dust, maybe like this. And when he woke up, he got unconscious. When he woke up, he saw that he had big what to say paw prints, maybe like this in his arm, like this with claws. That's the most important part. Important part. What do you think it is? It had our fingers are this size, no? Its fingers were this size, this size. So what do you think? It
That,
just made me curious, definitely curious.
huh? I don't know. Was it maybe somebody on drugs? It's really hard when you're hearing it told to you like that because more like we live in a society where seeing is believing. So it's very, very
Yeah,
difficult for people to be able to believe a tale like that. But I mean, I have no clue what that could have been. Is it hard to think that at one point there wasn't like people had these ideas of monsters, these legends, these creatures that hide in the darkness. Are they all made up? I don't think so. I think a lot of that has to stem from somewhere, but I believe it's like the storytelling effect where eventually you're whispering down a line of people. And by the time it gets to the last person, after going through so many ears and so many mouths coming all the way to the ending, it's been twisted and formed in a different way.
you see, I read those papers written by him. By he himself wrote the notes about what happened, that encounter in his book. I saw that. I read it directly from him. No folklore and no story from people to people.
Have you
That's the
t-
most.
have you
What do
talked
you
to
think,
him?
Mark?
Have you talked to him about it?
He's my great great grandpa. He's dead
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
he's gone. Maybe he was bit by a werewolf and he lasted forever. You don't know.
Maybe
Th-
I'm a werewolf.
think of that though. Imagine if you're a werewolf, you have like maybe you last hundreds and hundreds of years. Would you turn your own family to be able to have them go with you?
Sure, why not? Would
Well,
you be interested?
imagine if you're miserable. Like if you're
Miserable.
if you're miserable being a werewolf, would you turn your own family to let them have the curse as well? Because anytime anybody talks about being a werewolf, for the first like 50 years, It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be like, oh, it's amazing. And then eventually you see them towards the end where they're like, fucking kill me. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to be around any longer. I feel like that's the problem with immortality. Have you ever seen Vin Diesel's movie, The Last Witch Hunter?
Yeah,
Okay, in that movie, he talks about like I've seen these streets be built upon bloods and bodies, and I've seen people I love
yeah.
die. That's why I would never want to be immortal because fucking you get to watch everything and everything shape around you, and you get to lose loved ones, and you keep on living while everything else you love dies. It's an endless cycle. You can't get close to anybody. You can't do anything. I'm like, I get it from the whole like, oh, I never get to die. I'm going to be powerful. I can live forever and gain as much knowledge as possible. But after a while, you're sitting there like, this is fucking endless. Like, you see what the world's becoming today compared to what it was back in the day. Who would want to be around forever for that?
Sure, that's a problem. But you won't take that seriously, right? What's the use of you dead? If you're dead, what's the use? You don't get free birth, right? Why not be alive for that? Let's be miserable. Miserable is bad. Let's see it's hurting very much, but you're alive. That's the point. Hold the thing.
Well, the whole point of life is that there's a death to it. That's what, after a while, you see vampires that are lasting hundreds and hundreds of years in movies or something. At the end, they're just like, I just want to die finally. Dracula just wanted to be killed. That was his whole thing. When he finally died, he was like, thank you. And he turned to ash. Like, the only thing that ever has been brought back from the dead, which is probably one of my favorite monsters that we haven't even talked about, Frankenstein, homeboy.
Shit, I forgot about him.
How do you
Okay,
forget
today's
about the
talk is
man, the
about
myth, the legend?
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, first of
Shit,
all,
man.
the best, a person that is being able to recreate life from bringing it back, basically back from death, a dead corpse, and bringing it back to life using electric impulses. Even though if you read the original diary tales that I read when I was a kid, as like just a fun read for school to get that sticker on your binder or whatever, it was they put electric eels in a tank and harnessing their electricity to be able to resuscitate a body and be able to literally bring a person back to life. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman,
Yeah. It's an awesome movie.
yeah, that is an amazing movie. That is the best representation I've ever seen of Frankenstein. This beast that just is trying his hardest to, be a person or just be loved by his creator. And then all these people kill his creator. And the next thing you know, he's just suffering. He's going through constant hell, people refusing him because of what he looks like, what he is. We're scared to things that aren't like us. And people want to immediately put up torches and pitchforks. I'm like, this is like back in the day where like if they talk about dragons, if you're watching like Game of Thrones or something, everybody's hunting down the dragons and there's no more dragons for us to have today. Like we kill things that are different to their extinction, but it's like, why don't we learn from their differences? Like good hunters through like ancient folklore like Greek mythology or Roman mythology, these hunters would talk about trying to gather as much information from these creatures or animals as possible, being able to study, being able to learn the wisdom from them to be able to become better hunters. Why is it that most folklore when it comes to werewolves and vampires is us just killing them and not trying to learn as much as possible? You're telling me if you came across Dracula and he wasn't trying to kill you, you wouldn't ask him some questions like, what was it like meeting fucking Prince? What was it like meeting, something? What was it like, this person, Napoleon Bonaparte? What was he like? You would ask so many questions.
My first question will be, will you bite me like that? And second question, then we'll ask about that. How is immortality? We don't need to have choices, right? If you think that's right, it's better. If you want immortality, you don't need to think of the consequences. You get strength, power, they're both the same. Speed, both as what to say, added benefits, right?
That's fun for a little while, but eventually you're gonna be like, this is fucking boring. Like you're gonna be living for hundreds and hundreds of years. Eventually, you're like, all right, cool. I can run really fast. I've already done. I get it. The first 50 years, you're gonna be having a blast. You're gonna be jumping off buildings. You're gonna be doing whatever. But eventually, you're gonna be like, this isn't fun anymore. I can't have a family because next thing I know,
Yeah.
they're dead, and then you can't turn your own family.
Why not? That's the question. Why do you
You're th-
what to
you're
say?
thinking like someone that's 17 years old. Like you're thinking of like a child's mentality with this whole thing. If you're already no vampire is happy. There's none of them, not even the ones in Twilight. They're all fucking miserable. So you got to think, if
Yeah.
you're gonna be miserable too. You're gonna have your own fun and stuff, but you're gonna be pretty miserable as well. So you're gonna want to make your family miserable, the people that you love, your kids, your wife, all these types of people. You're not gonna have the strength to do it when it comes to it.
Yeah, it's better what to say. You'll miss them right in the future. If you're a vampire, you'll miss them in the future, like say 200 years, you'll miss them. And you'll feel, why didn't I turn them? Why are they not here with me? That's the problem. What's the point of them dying, man? That's the problem. You don't understand it, right?
Because living as a soulless or heartless being is
With
not.
us, that's the problem. That's the beauty of it. With us, a family. That's what families are for positive and negative.
Yeah, but legit, you're gonna be heartless because your heart was gonna stop beating because you're dead. Technically, you're just a walking corpse. That's what vampires are. That's the whole point. You ever seen Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
Yeah,
You can't kill another vampire. That was the whole basis of the movie. He couldn't kill another vampire. It was impossible. He goes stab him with a knife, and the knife would just go down. He wouldn't be able to do it. Like he just couldn't force himself to do it. It's the same thing. Like you got to look at like trying to kill your own family, turn them to save them from death. It was the only time that they ever turned another person because they knew how tasking it was every single day to be one of these things. You're thinking of all the cool shit. Think of the
yeah,
negative shit that goes with it. That's like you're gonna have super strength, but you only have
yeah,
one arm. That's not cool. Do you want one arm if you have super strength? Fuck no. You want both your arms. See, that's what I'm saying is
yeah.
all these things, all these benefits. Dude, you're like the kid that somebody opens up a van door and then they offer candy and you hop in. You're thinking of the benefit like the chocolate,
Yeah,
but you're not thinking of the repercussions like what's he going to do to me once I get the candy. You know what I mean? That's how they tricked you in the movies though. That's not just you, that's anybody. They lure you in. The devil would lure you in with good benefits, amazing things. You're going to be amazing at guitar. You're going to be doing all this stuff. You're going to be a slayer of the ladies, all these types of things. And then he's like, but you only get to live 10 years. And he puts that in small details at the bottom. And you're like, fuck, what? I only can only enjoy this for 10 years?
every positive has a negative, right?
Exactly. Exactly what you're saying, dude. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it comes to folklore, man. I rather, instead of monsters, I like the idea of cryptids, Like, I don't know. I'm a Bigfoot. I like to think that if there is anything out there, Bigfoot would be pretty cool. But Yeti's my all-time favorite. I think Mothman and all these other types of things are like spin-offs of like the main original kind of folklore in a way. I feel like there's just a bunch of people that maybe drank too much or had a weird. I mean, because our eyes are known to play tricks on us at nighttime. I mean, things happen.
Yeah.
You'll be out like in the middle of a farm field somewhere at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and you'll start hearing noises. I mean, I've done it before. I've been out at my buddy's house in the middle of the woods at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just sitting there looking around like, what the hell was that? Like, I think like some monsters out there trying to kill me, but you don't know. It could be a pigeon, could be a bird or some sort.
Yeah. You don't risk it, right? Why risk? What I'm saying is, if you want to be a cryptozoologist, right? You need to risk it. You say you're afraid of that. What's back there? Instead of being afraid, you need to go and see there what's happening right there. Then you'll have a what to say, a clarity. Understand? Do you get it?
Okay, I'm confused because I'm pretty sure I've spouted out more cryptozoology than you have. So I'm trying to figure out who's the cryptozoologist here. I don't want to be a cryptozoology expert. I just like entertaining the idea of it. I mean, thunderbirds, these giant things that people talk about through folklore, like Mothman, New Jersey Devil, Pope licking monster. I mean, these are just some
Yeah.
of the few that come out here. I mean, everyone's got their own idea of what a cryptid is based on their state, based on their location of where they're at. It has similarities to things that are developed in the area. I mean, things that are part bear, things that are part wolf, things that are part. And I think it's interesting. I definitely think the stories are needed, but I it's hard to really believe a lot of these things because, like I said, it does seem like seeing is believing. And for a lot of people, when you're just hearing that there's this creature with hooves that flies around New Jersey and eats people or takes people up and kills people's like farm or something, it's very, very hard to believe.
Sure, but it's interesting, right? Have you ever seen a ghost or a cryptid?
Have I ever seen a ghost or a cryptid?
Yeah,
Not that I know of.
an encounter maybe.
I don't know because like if we talk about ghosts, I always like to think of it like the sixth sense. You don't know they're dead. So like maybe I walked into someone and it was like, "Hey man, how's it going?" And someone's just like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "It's Jim over there." And it's like nobody else can see Jim.
Yeah. um, what I'm saying is, if you see a ghost sighting or a cryptid sighting, you'll get an interesting, what to say, something turns on inside you. Okay, then you'll start believing everything. You see, you won't believe it. I think I saw a ghost, and it was pretty amazing to me actually.
Well, you got to tell me your experience now. Come on, don't leave me on that one.
Sure,
You
it
said
was
you didn't even
broad
want to
daylight,
talk ghosts, bro. You said it. You said you didn't want to talk ghosts, and now you're bringing up ghosts. Are you kidding me?
bro. Ghosts are scary. Fuck. See, there was this broad daylight. It was a lunar eclipse, right? And I was just traveling in my car, and I was just about 12 maybe, and I was just sitting in this car waiting, and I see suddenly, what to say, a shop is there. It's closed, and there's broad, what to say, sand. Then suddenly, what to say, out of nowhere, ashes start coming out of the ground. There was no fire, nothing, just ashes. It's just saying that like this. It was just not moving. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck, like that. I don't understand. Still, I didn't got no.
You call that a ghost experience?
Saw that. I showed my mom, my friend, everybody. I'm just far distance. I'm just showing this. Look at this, like that. There's something there, and it's just black, and no one sees that. It's just normal broad daylight. There's nothing that they're saying that. See, that's the problem. That's when I awaken a third eye, maybe. Um, and interest, right? If you see something that's not ordinary, you get to see something that you believe that there are still more out there in the universe. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get you get one encounter with you. You'll get to know more. You'll want to know more. You'll see more.
It's about chasing like the dream kind of. Once you're coming across something and you first of all, if you find out something is real and for so long you've been ignorant to think that it is real, like if someone told you vampires and werewolves were real right now, you would want to know everything possible about these things just to be able to understand them better. I mean, you want to be
Yeah,
wary of what's out there. That's what makes it so interesting, which I feel like a lot of people go and chase down for because they've had an experience that maybe they didn't, they couldn't explain, or it seemed like it was this thing. Next thing you know, they're chasing it down, trying to figure out what it is because they want to know what they want to find that answer. We're a answer seeking population of people. It's paranormal, all that type of stuff. I look at it and I'm like, there's different sides to it, obviously. Some people have these accounts and experiences. I've had some paranormal experiences myself. These stuff I couldn't explain, but
now you gotta tell that.
well, I've said it a few times. I don't want to repeat myself on this thing, but like I've seen like a person that I thought like when I was a kid wasn't there. And people are like, we're the only, like, it was a hotel experience. I'll send you the details on it, but like I've had, I've been able to do things I couldn't explain, and a lot of it falls down the lines with like psychic abilities, the power of empathy, being empathic, being able to, like I'll get deja vu like everybody gets, that type of thing. I've been able to, I mean, I found a person's body in a dream and
Yeah,
I told somebody about it and they found that person. So like that was
dude,
something
that's
I
happened to me too.
yeah, that's
Also,
something you can't explain. There's these things, but I believe that at the end of it, it's not really, oh, this person's got psychic abilities and this person's got this. I think it's more on the lines of like, we're all connected by like an invisible string. Everybody's connected into one. So I'm just like, maybe it could be so powerful you can immediately one of those threads get crossed over. Next thing you know, you're getting information of someone else's life into your own. I mean, I know people that take salvia, for instance, that crazy ass legal drug. And what they do is when they take this drug, like my cousin lived 8 different lives when he took this drug. He lived the life of a Chinese man that had a heart attack in front of his family. And my cousin's only 30 years old and he's white. He's not Chinese. And he was like, he goes, I also lived the life of a kid that made it to the age of 16, then had a heart attack on a school bus. And he's recounting these tales. And I'm listening to him. I'm like, it sounds like reincarnation. I'm listening to him talk about all these lives that he had lived. And I'm like, there's no way you could be making up anything about this, like the extreme detail you go into it. So it makes me wonder what is possible? What is the end? And what typically do we, I guess, classify as the end?
See, have you seen Shazam, right?
Yeah, I've seen Shazam.
Yes.
That's a badass movie.
And you see the villain, right,
Yeah.
in his childhood. That's the same exact scenario for us, for most of us. He saw something. What's the blind man thing? He saw Shazam. No one believes him after he comes to the real world. Do you get it?
Yeah.
That's what. Until people encounter something, they won't believe it. And if that thing comes to light, let's say tomorrow all the vampires and werewolves comes into light and goes on reporting, I'm a werewolf, I've been in hiding for this much month. Then people start searching for them. What's werewolf? All the news headline will be werewolf, werewolf, werewolf. Wait, so let's be prepared, right? If they come, what's their problem? What do they do? Suppose if they're on our side, it's not a problem. If they're on the bad side, we got to be prepared, right?
Yeah,
You get it?
you got to bring up the pitchforks and torches, man. You got to be ready for that stuff to
Yeah.
come out. I'm letting you know that I'm carrying silver bullets in my car in case I'm ever out in the middle of the woods somewhere. You bet your ass if I run into a werewolf, somebody's getting popped.
You gotta be careful out there. Yours is the best city right now. My
Now,
favorite
look,
area.
if you come to America, what would be the
Yeah.
first cryptid you would, or yeah, what would be the first cryptid you'd want to encounter?
Brave or beast.
A werewolf beast? All right, but that's a monster. Let's talk about cryptid. Bigfoot, any of those guys. Which one?
The Mothman.
Why the Mothman?
Hey, it's cool, man. He's cool.
He's
Fucking cool.
he's Mr. freaking what do you call it? That's like
Art
a
rock.
that's a hipster answer, bro. That's like everybody knows the Mothman. It's like everybody knows the Muffin Man, but everybody knows the Mothman. Like, what's your favorite cryptid, Mothman? It's like because he's everywhere. I don't know why he's so popular.
He's got that red eyes. He'll just, please take me. I'm like that.
Bigfoot is like a gorilla with a straight spine, so I don't want to hear anything about that. The Yeti even sounds even more badass. I would love to meet the Yeti, even if he tossed a boulder at me and threw me off a mountain.
He's just human, man. You can't, what to say? He's just like some ancestor of ours. That's the problem. They're not a monster. They're just human. Or ape, maybe.
The Yeti is not human, bro. If you can pick up a fucking boulder, you're not Hulk Hogan, you're not Macho Man Randy Savage. If you pick up a boulder and throw somebody off a mountain, you are a beast, man. These things are ape hominid creatures. Mothman is like, he looks like a person, but he has moth wings. I'm like, I kill moths every day when I walk outside in the like middle of the night with a flashlight and one comes up. I'm just like, squish. You just tell me this is a big ass moth that comes by. Like, you killed my friend. I'm like, oh shit, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Life's tricky. It's got stories to it, man. I definitely think you got one of those interesting hobbies there though, studying cryptozoology. I think that's needed more. I mean, I spent a lot of my school I think I was a full on semester. We had to do papers and research on ancient topics and stuff, and I just picked out cryptozoology and started studying a lot about it, printing out articles from Thunderbirds to Men in Black if you want to talk about conspiracy theories and stuff. And I definitely think it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down to. I definitely think it's something fun too. I mean, who doesn't want to learn about monsters and legends? We're told folks stories and fantasy tales before we go to bed. Why not want to study it later when you're awake?
Yeah. Is maybe the government's hiding something. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are hiding something, like Area 51.
Yeah, that's
Bigfoot's
the
in
point.
area. Yeah, Bigfoot's in there.
They might have caught the Bigfoot, took out its DNA, injected in some person, and he's got the same powers as Bigfoot, right?
Now you're playing God, and I don't like that. Making mini Bigfoots everywhere is ridiculous.
Who? Maybe your mailman's got those Bigfoot powers, and he's like, you're yelling at him like, "Where's the mail? Where's the fucking mail?" He's like, he'll choke you down easily with 2 fingers.
Sounds like a piece to a movie, but you gotta. That's a good idea. I would write that script out. But hey, T, I appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man.
You want to promote anything such as your Instagram page?
Yeah, I'm using Cryptid Monsters. It's an awesome page for. It's like a dictionary for monsters. If you have something in mind and you search for it, you can get it. Get to my page, you'll find it with a few features. Like I saw a man with 2 foot, sorry, a 4 feet. Maybe it's a werewolf. It's in there, based of werewolf, something like that. And I make music. I make the Black Mob, and today's I released a new song. Hear it out. It's the Black Mob.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, and thank you for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast.